Hello firearms friends, Class 3, NFA, or if you just lump them all together as machine guns, whatever you call them, they're one of the hottest genres in collecting today. And in our February 21st through 23rd Sporting Collector Firearms Auction, there are 40 NFA items just looking for a new safe to call home. Everything from weapons of war to small game, and yes, small game, and everything in between. The variety is outstanding. Let's dive into 5 that'll be appearing in that weekend's auction. Let's start off front and center with a Smith & Wesson Model 76. Now, the Smith & Wesson Model 76, little subgun, one of the 3 on the table here, actually has its roots in the Swedish M45 or the K gun. Now, I can't pronounce the word the K stands for, but it translates literally as bullet squirting pistol. So off to a good start. Of course, the Swedes are developing that, the Carl Gustaf, the M45. World War II, they're getting a little nervous, right? You have Norway, which is occupied. You have Finland, which is temporarily aligning with Germany to keep Russia off their back. So they're feeling they need to up the firepower a little bit, and they look around, and what's everybody making? They're making stamped metal submachine guns. You have the Sten, you have the grease guns. And so Sweden gets to work making their K. It's open bolt, it's about 600 rounds per minute, it's stamped metal, perfect. Now in subsequent decades, that Model K came to be popular with the Navy SEALs who are fighting in Vietnam. Now they're using the Model K, one, because it's full auto, it's stamped, it's reliable, it's very, very sturdy, heavy, very easy to control. But it also, because it's not a US made gun, there's some plausible deniability about where those Navy SEALs are fighting in Vietnam. So they'd like to order more from Sweden, and Sweden is a neutral country during the Vietnam War, and they refuse to sell us any more of their of the K guns. So the Navy SEALs go to Smith & Wesson. They say, with a very specific list of specifications for a submachine gun, and they happen to come up with, and the designer states he has no previous knowledge of the Model K, but comes up with basically an exact copy in 1967, and that is the Smith & Wesson Model 76. They whip up a batch of about 100 for the Navy to test out. The Navy by then decides that they are not interested in a Smith & Wesson Model 76, and so Smith & Wesson then offers them actually on the retail market. Much like the Tommy gun, decades before the Smith & Wesson 76, they don't see much success there, even with law enforcement groups, anything like that. So even though they're made in 1967, they are only sold through like 1974, only about 6,000 made. If you're a Smith & Wesson collector who wants something besides revolvers on their wall, boy, here's a great addition to a Smith & Wesson collection, especially because it's usable. These are modern guns. You could very easily take that out to the range. Good for Smith & Wesson collectors, good for Class 3 collectors, Vietnam War collectors, Navy SEAL collectors, or if you're just looking for a very nice sort of entry-level price way to get into Class 3, Smith & Wesson 76, and all their subsequent licensed variations that exist, like the MK Arm 760, they're a great way to do just that. Next on the table, an M11, but as you can tell, it's got a little more going on for it. Now, we could have shown you any of the M10, M11s, Mac 10s, Mac 11s, or M11 9s that are in the auction, but chose this one. Like I said, it's just more interesting, and that's because it's been fitted with this distinct upper that you can see, and it's this Max-31K upper that transforms it essentially from a machine pistol into a pretty serviceable SMG. Not only do we have the extended stock, we have some pretty improved grips right here. We of course have full pick rail up top, little pick rail up top, removable vertical foregrip here. Helps with a lot of things, especially, as you may have noticed, this large drum mag. This upper is compatible with Papashaw 41 drum mags, also the Suomi, the KP31 drum mags as well. So really, really interesting piece. Now, if you do prefer the more conventional arrangement, it does come with the Mac 11 upper, the Mac 11 sort of a wire stock that comes back, the original magazines, all that good stuff, as well as a silencer, so double stamper on this lot. And again, Mac 10s, Mac 11s, M10s, M11s, whatever you want to call them, have been a great entry-level way to get into machine guns for a long time, and this lot offers a little more flexibility than most. Last of the subguns on the table, a Beretta Model 12 S. Now, the Beretta Model 12 is a fantastic Italian submachine gun, has its origins after World War II when Beretta wanted to get away from the M38, the MAB 38, really wanted to take some steps forward. Now, production on these doesn't begin until 1959. They don't even see widespread adoption sort of beyond Italy and even in Italy until 1978, but they did sort of rise to fame before that during the Vietnam War. During the Tet Offensive, when Viet Cong forces are storming Saigon and the US Embassy, there's military men and women and CIA men who are using Italian Beretta Model 12s to defend the embassy. So obviously they jump into the forefront there, and really they're one of these sort of eternal submachine gun designs. You know, they're not, of course, they're in Vietnam, as we just mentioned. They see widespread adoption starting in the 70s. You see Iraqis using this in the Second Gulf War. You see Italian security guards using them today. You see them licensed internationally by several different companies. They're just all over the place. The only place you don't see them a lot is Hollywood movies, and that's why they're really pretty much not as well known as the HKMP5. They're essentially the same age, the same service, and both really, really well-made submachine guns. By all accounts, these are an absolute joy to shoot, the wire stock notwithstanding, but these double pistol grips really make it stable and help you fight, climb. The action is smooth, the magazines double stack function extremely well. It's seen some upgrades over time. The Model 12S actually originally had push button safety and push button firing selector. As you can see, now there's a grip safety which affects all sorts of functions, including on the bolt, as well as our typical selector for single fire or machine gun fire. Absolutely wonderful guns. Reportedly a joy to shoot. Some people call them the gold standard that other submachine guns should be measured by. With that in mind, and their service life, and this one's looks almost in brand new condition, the estimate on this gun in the February Sporting Collector Firearms Auction is $9,000 to $14,000. That's an absolute steal for a gun with the pedigree and the craftsmanship that Beretta offers in a subgun. You know, and with the good reputation that these have for how fun they are to shoot, hop online now, place your bids, get a subgun, an excellent made subgun for a steal, and then invite me over to shoot. I'll even bring my own ammo. Next on the table, boy, there's some interesting ones. And as you can tell, one of the big dogs, one of the big machine guns in the February auction, you can tell from this big distinct magazine on top, we have a Lewis gun, but outside of that, it doesn't look much like a Lewis gun. It lacks sort of the big distinct, cooling mechanism for the barrel that we anticipate to be here, although there is the housing located back here. And that's because this Lewis gun was for air service. Very appropriate given the Lewis machine gun was the first machine gun to be used on powered aircraft. So we've removed the cooling fins from the barrel because when you're using this on an airplane, you have so much air rushing past the barrel, you don't need a special cooling device like you would for a stationary ground use or by troops on the ground. Also for air use, we don't need a typical stock. These are typically going to be mounted, whether it's on an airplane, vehicles, boats later on. So you're gonna see the typical wooden buttstock replaced with a spade grip. So interesting already as an air service Lewis machine gun. It also appears to have been reconverted for some land use. How do we know that? Well, we have a foregrip that's been reinstalled, and it's a makeshift foregrip placed around here to keep users from burning their hands on the barrel and the gas mechanisms here. And it is insulated on the inside, but it would serve the purpose. Although for land use, you wouldn't want to use it extensively without the barrel cooling mechanism for obvious reasons. And then while we mentioned you've removed the buttstock to have a spade grip for when it's vehicle mounted, this one appears to have attached to the spade grip on the back this sort of custom steel buttstock with a little bit of a hook to go over the shoulder for some extra stability. So air service reconverted to land is extremely interesting. Savage has a great World War I history already. They started making them for the British. Then we didn't have really many machine guns of our own, so Savage began making them for US troops, chambered in 30-06. This one does have that marking on the close side, Savage, and then the big chambering 30 Army, very large, so you're not confusing it with any of the British 303 chambered Savages. Boy, if this Savage could talk, I bet it would have more than a few stories to tell. Last of the NFA items, one of my favorites is the Ithaca Auto Burglar. Ithaca, one of the premier American shotgun manufacturers early 20th century. And of course, only a premier shotgun manufacturer could take something like a sawed-off shotgun and just make it look classy. Now, of course, this is not a sawed-off shotgun. This is a production example of an Ithaca Auto and Burglar with this big, distinct saw handle. All those changed shapes throughout production. Wonderful brake action. We even have some, engraving. There's a little dog scene here, case-hardened receiver. They didn't step too far from their high-end shotgun roots. And when you open it and close it again, that sounds like a pretty nice American shotgun that you could expect from the early 20th century. Ithaca, like we said, they made very nice high-end examples. They also made the Flues patent, which as I recall has like 6 moving parts in it. So very everyday workman shotguns to the very high end. This one has that just a really nice high-end feel to it, despite the fact that it's a self-defense shotgun and to be used as such, as the name Auto and Burglar would imply. It's to be to your nightstand or to be strapped to your steering column for some of the auto banditry that was happening in the 1920s. And that's because these came around in 1925 and went into the 1930s. So very much born in that roaring 20s era. And as you can see, we have how cool is this? A custom Ithaca Auto and Burglar holster, in case you wanted to wear this on your belt and not just have it on your nightstand or your steering column. Just if you think seeing firearms preserved for that amount of time is difficult, boy, things like cardboard boxes and leather are even harder to preserve. So to see this in one piece, to see this with largely intact, to see that text still on the flap, just really cool, really special to have the holster along with the Auto Burglar. Now, since the 1930s, these of course have been classified as smoothbore pistols and thus any other weapon. But boy, what an effective tool. Again, whether in your home or for burglars, if you recall what Clint Smith of Thunder Ranch says about properly loaded shotguns at proper distances, you know that the Auto and Burglar has more than what it takes to be an effective self-defense tool. We've shown you some of the less frequently seen guns in this video for the upcoming February 21st through 23rd Sport and Collector Firearms Auction, but rest assured, all your favorites are still there. All the ARs, the Thompsons, the Uzis, the grease guns, the M10s, the M11s, everything from street sweepers to game getters are going to be in the auction. It's over 4,100 guns. Head over there, check out the selection, give the video a subscribe, place your bid, start stocking some ammo for all these Class 3 items. And when you stock that ammo, of course, you gotta keep your powder dry.